my video, I just let you take a look at my background, of the Perth skylight. So first of all, I thanks, Dr. Savithia Sivakumar, IEEE Region 10 Young Professional Committee Chair for the invitation to speak on this occasion. It is truly my honor and pleasure. And also, I'd like to express my thank and welcome to Professor Chandima Gomes to speak on the topic of risks and opportunities. I believe it is a most timely and appropriate topic for young professionals, students, members, and non-members in the current challenging time. We are all experiencing unpredicted and unprecedented changes to every aspect of our daily practices due to lockdown, travel ban, virtual meetings, online webinars, takeaway, food delivery, and even at one time we even have panic buying of toilet papers. So it's amazing, isn't it? So nevertheless, we have witnessed IEEE community has responded swiftly and promptly to the challenge with many initiatives and activities to serve the members and the community in the past months. For example, IEEE has the COVID-19 resources provided by the IEEE Spectrum, bringing technologies and resources to combat the virus, and also coping strategies with opportunities to get involved in the fight. The IEEE Educational Activities Committees initiated the Reaching Locals project last year to raise the awareness of technologies among the communities with local languages, and it is having a long-lasting impact to many countries. Within IEEE Region 10, the young professionals also have organized technical talks on COVID-19 update on the threat landscape last year. And this year, I also see that you have organized and called for the nomination of the IEEE Young Professional Revolt 2021 for the recognition and nominations of the volunteers, and also call for the proposal for the Upscale 2021. And also, I see next month you also have the training modules on topics such as the event management and funding. In the recent IEEE Region 10 newsletter, the April 2021 editions, it has over 90 pages of articles highlighting what has been happening within the region. In particular, I would like to draw your attention to the YP Personality of the Month, Dr. Savikoma, on page 21 of the newsletter. So congratulations. If I may, I like to reiterate the philosophy shared by our regional director, Deepak Mathur, member value creation. So let our programs create value to address the members' recruitment and members' retention and also serve the community. It is reflected by the latest membership number, which shows a strong growth within the Region 10 around the globe, in compared to the other regions. It is mainly due to the efforts by volunteers and leaders like you all within the IEEE, such as providing seminar like today on this topic of risk and opportunities. So may I finish with a quote from Helen Keller. She is an American author. She lost her sight and hearing at the age of 19 months, but she had received an education from the specialist and the mainstream schools. And she attended the Radcliffe College of Harvard University and became the first deaf and blind person to be awarded with a Bachelor of Arts degree. She was a prolific author with 14 books and hundreds of speeches and essays on topics ranging from animals to Mahatma Gandhi. From 1924 to 1968, she toured the United States and traveled to 35 countries, advocating for those who are being vision impaired. Her quote was, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." So without further ado, I believe you all will benefit much from Professor Gomes on today's topic on risk and opportunities. And please put what you will hear in practice. Have a daring adventure and a successful future. Okay, thank you so much. And now I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Lance, for that wonderful start, and thanks a lot for the kind appreciation for IEEE Regions and YP. And we are really honored to have you with us. Thanks a lot again. And with that, we are moving on to our webinar for today, the risks and opportunities. A person who takes calculated risks will find thousands of opportunities. This popular quotation is valid throughout all times with one condition, that calculated word is defined with the given space time. To talk about this more, we have a very knowledgeable speaker with us, Professor Chandima Gomes. Professor Chandima is Professor of High Voltage Engineering, the chair of ESCOM Power Plant Engineering Institute, HVAC, and the director of Center of Excellence on High Voltage Engineering, University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. He is chartered engineer, registered in UK, a professional physicist in South Africa. Chandima's research involvement span over a large spectrum of themes. His main research interests at present are energy storage, optimization of hybrid energy systems, lightning protection, and electrical safety of energy systems, especially related to transportation. He's also a stakeholder of 7 IP rights. He has won 13 awards and honors at both national and international levels. Chandima obtained a first-class degree in physics from University of Colombo, Sri Lanka in 1993. He has done research for his PhD in 1999 and a postdoctoral research on lightning protection and high voltage engineering at Uppsala University, Sweden. Professor Chandima, it is our great honor to have you with us as a speaker for our R10 Talk webinar, Risks and Opportunities. Thanks a lot, and the stage is all yours. Thank you. Professor, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Savitya, and hope that you can see me. Okay, wonderful. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day for all of you, because we all are from different parts of the world. And first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Savitya, for giving me this opportunity. And just to tell you about my involvements, I have been working a lot in several organizations in the world, like IET, and then I had some work with C. Gray and many other things. But to be honest, although it is being the world's largest professional body when it comes to engineering, my involvement with IEEE is very minimal. So I don't know why it happened, but that's life. And today we are going to a topic which is, of course, really important for various layers of our society: the government, entrepreneurs, the engineers, and even the general public. Risk and opportunities. So, in order to get an entry into this topic, let me start with a story about vehicles. I think that was in the abstract I have given you as well. And before that, one small request to Dr. Savitya. Dr. Savitya, can you please remind me about 2 to 3 minutes, say 3 minutes before the closure of my time allocation?
Sure,
so,
sure.
You know that we university dons are quite unconscious about the time when they start talking. We are talkaholics. So therefore, always there should be a punch saying that, hey, you have to stop now. Okay? So no hard feelings, you can tell me, hey, stop. Okay, let me get into this topic with a story about the competition among vehicles. You know that in the last 10-15 years, there was a very big competition among 2 types of non-petroleum operated vehicles. Those are the battery operated electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles. Now, if somebody asks you, what are the advantages and disadvantages of these two? I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that. If you take a battery operated vehicle, the biggest issue they have is the charging time. It's like 20 to 25 minutes. Maybe what is available at present commercially, the fastest may be 15 minutes per full mileage of the vehicle. And what are the advantages? Battery systems are compact, long-lasting, and the mileage is quite high, and there are so many advantages. And charging ports are available anywhere. Then when it comes to the hydrogen, hydrogen vehicles have their own advantages and disadvantages. But one of their major advantage or edge over the electric vehicle, the battery operated vehicles, is the recharging time. When I say recharging in hydrogen vehicles, it is the hydrogen pumping time, which is very similar to a normal petroleum driven vehicle, just 2-3 minutes. So now the hydrogen vehicles were trying to capitalize on this for the last 4-5 years, and the battery operated vehicle manufacturers were looking for various engineering solutions to this. There were many research went on to reduce the charging time, but this is quite a big challenge. You know, who are in the electrical or mechanical engineering sector knows very well what is the challenge here. When you increase the rate of charging of battery operated vehicles, then the current required for that becomes very high. And most often, such high rate of current, flow of current, result explosions or even triggering fires. And I'm sure that just 2-3 years ago, hydrogen fuel cell vehicle manufacturers were very much capitalizing on this fact. But suddenly, this was first tried in Italy by Fiat company, but it was not successful. But in 2019 and 2020, a Chinese vehicle manufacturing company, NIO, came up with a non-engineering solution. It was wonderful. Nobody has given a serious thought on that. That is to swap the batteries. Why do you worry about reducing the charging time? What you can do is, throughout the country, just like petrol sheds or gasoline stations, you have these battery swapping stations. And so let the vehicle have 2 batteries, for an example. Then when one battery goes down, you can just put your car into usually what they planned was a big battery and a small battery. When the big battery goes down, with the small battery, you can go for another, say, 50-60 kilometers, just like the reserve part of the fuel tank, and then swap the battery, which takes about 2 to 3 minutes maximum. Usually they say that 2 minutes. You give that battery and take a new battery. And then this company came up with a very attractive offer. What they started doing was they sold the car without a battery, then when you remove the cost of the battery from the price of the car, its price goes down by about 7,000-8,000 US dollars. And what the car owner should do is keep a small deposit at these battery providers, and at any time they can hire a battery, fully charged battery, just like we are hiring gas cylinders, those who are cooking with LP gas, and then swap it to another battery. So you don't have to worry about maintaining the battery and all those issues, because every time you're getting a new battery, it's just like the gas cylinders. Now you see suddenly, just in the last 6 months, the hydrogen vehicle industry was going through quite a big dilemma how to face this change of scenario in the battery operated vehicle world, which is very attractive. Okay, now I'm moving from this story to the risk and opportunities. Now imagine that if you have a government, say that you're a big head of a government who's going to take policy decisions on the transport infrastructure of the country. Okay, now every country knows, because I'm involved with this vehicular energy changes in several countries, so that I know many government officials who are at the policy making level are facing this risky situation. Imagine that a government uh, has decided to go to electric vehicles. It is the future. I'm sure that there is no risk in it. If you look at the trends of uh, transportation development for the last 120 years, you will find that the petroleum internal combustion engine was surviving for almost 100 years. And suddenly people understood that this fuel consumption is going to make a big issue in the world. So that they started thinking of a new way, and electric vehicles came as the most prominent solution. So that if a country decide to take a policy decision on, say, by 2030, the whole country will have electric vehicles. No more fuel filling stations for petroleum vehicles. That's wonderful. Many countries have taken this decision. But now the question is, we have two types of electric vehicles: the hydrogen fuel cell vehicle and the battery powertrain electric vehicles. Okay, now the question is, if you go for hydrogen fuel cells, the infrastructure development is different. You need to have a hydrogen economy, hydrogen production, hydrogen storage, compression of hydrogen, then hydrogen delivery, then hydrogen filling stations, and so on. If you think about battery operated vehicles, then the infrastructure development is different. You need to manufacture batteries, maintain batteries, then battery charging stations are different from the hydrogen filling stations. And the vehicles, how you get the vehicles, what type of vehicles you decide to either manufacture or import to the country. So these are two different things. Now the question is, which of the two directions the policy should take into account in the development of the new policy on adapting the next generation vehicles for the country. You take, for an example, Malaysia. So what is the policy decision of Malaysia? So this is a place where one will be getting a huge issue, huge uphill task, how to do this decision. Because once you take the decision, you are going in one direction. Say, for an example, you decide to go for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. That will create a lot of opportunities, many jobs, many entrepreneurships, industries, and so on. But you see the risk in it. In the midway, after 4 years or 5 years, suddenly all neighboring countries have decided to go for battery operated vehicles, and they have this battery swapping system, a non-engineering solution given to the most challenging issue of battery operated vehicles. And now Malaysia will be in a big trouble. In the same manner, if Malaysia at this very moment, it looks like battery operated vehicles has a very bright future, and they adopt it, and in another 3 to 4 years, nowadays it won't take that much of time. In another few years, the hydrogen vehicle industry comes up with a very promising and attractive solution, so that the rest of the countries in the region go for that. This is where the risk is affecting many sectors. Many sectors. Just one government policy is going to affect from the government itself to the lowest layer of the country. That is the people who depends on, the public depends on this decision. For an example, a poor person, when I say poor, low income generating person in this society decides to make small parts of the vehicular system. Say, for an example, the government decide to go for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So a person, a low income generating entrepreneur, decides to develop a cleaning system for hydrogen fuel cells. He cleans the fuel cell once in 6 months. The car needs to clean it. Say, for an example, and take this as a very, very minor example. Even that person will be, he put all his money savings for this business, and finally he ends up with a total collapse. Okay. Now, with that, we'll come to the general engineer's perspective. Now, imagine that if you are a graduate who pass out with an engineering degree, okay, now you are looking for a job, or you are looking for entrepreneurship. Now, if you are looking for a job, then your risks are somewhat lower. The reason is that when you say, for an example, you're planning to go to, say that you're a mechanical engineer, then you're planning to go for a company which is hiring heavy vehicles. Now, the heavy vehicle industry is very dominant for the last, say, 80, 90 years, for the last 50 years at least. And you're very sure that it will survive for another 20 years. So if you go to this industry, then the chances of you losing your job is quite low. So the risk is low, but at the same time, most probably your incomes are quite standard. You're not going to go above certain levels, and your contribution to the society, I'm sure that it is well worth, but again, it's limited because you have to do the day-to-day operations. And now you see that in a society, if you look at the countries, you will find that the development of a country is largely contributed by not those people who go into standard no risk jobs, no risk or very minimal risk jobs. But I'm not telling that these jobs are unimportant. They should be. They should be well existing of a country, existent of a country. That's quite understandable. However, if you look at the development of many countries, you will find that the development is largely contributed by, although those standard jobs have supported the development, it is mostly contributed by those who have taken high risks and went either for jobs or for entrepreneurship. Let me take the example of a very controversial country at the moment, Israel. So just leave the political and strategic actions of Israel aside. That should be discussed in detail on a separate platform. But if you look at, I'm talking about just 1 month ago, if you look at the infrastructure and the economic, social, and the professional infrastructure of Israel, you will find that there are many entrepreneurs, large scale and small scale, have uh, started operations or involvements which were considered very risky at the time they have started it. I'll take few examples. One example is the water desalination. Israel is having a big issue. Now I'm apologizing from all of you who will feel that I'm taking a bad example, not engineering wise, but social and political wise at the moment. But I'm taking this example because it is the best I can take. And also, it can give you very good lessons for the risk and opportunities. Now, the Israel is in a region where the water scarcity is the prime problem. Although people think that in Israel the number one problem is the attacks from the other countries, their prime concern, the prime issue is water. Then they started water desalination as a major business opportunity. And then if you look at 1970s and 80s, way back in 1970s and 80s, you will find that there is a large number of entrepreneurs get into this business without having a very prosperous or prospective aspects of the business at that moment. What driven them is the government encouragement and the need of the country. Keep this in mind whenever you're going for an entrepreneurship. One important thing you have to consider is the need locally, the local need of that business or that process. If the local need is very high, then the risk is low of your business or entrepreneurship is going to fail. And so that is number one, that the number one advice I'm giving for all young engineers. Even if you're going for a job or especially entrepreneurship, make sure that the need of the outcome of your involvement is a high need for the country, the local environment. Then the risk of failure is quite low. Now I'm coming back to this desalination of water in Israel. They have found that this is a big need. At some part of the time in the future, it is going to be the bloodline for them. So they made a lot of investments in this regard, large scale, small scale, both. And finally, they became the number one seawater desalination technocrats in the world. They are even now selling their technology to South Africa. They are selling their technology to many of the countries which are around Israel, which some people think that are against Israel or enemies of Israel. So this is something that you have to learn, the lesson learned from Israel. Then the second point, the agricultural investment in Israel. If you look at the fruit and vegetable growth in the country, you'll find that they have one of the best technologies. Again, something that nobody has thought at that time. The growth of vegetables and fruits in a semi-desertic country is somewhat beyond the concepts of many people in the 1960s, 70s. But again, they have thought that this is a need for their country as well as for the region around. So that they have invested a lot of money in this case. Another high risk investment, however, they have calculated, they have taken a calculated risk. One basic reason is it's a need for the country and also for the other countries in the neighborhood, although they are enemies. They know that although they are not very friendly with them, they need food, they need fresh vegetables, they need fresh fruits. So now, today, Israel is exporting this technology to many countries. So, from this example, just I took two examples from this country. What I'm trying to tell you is that the first lesson, when you are taking a risk in your investment, entrepreneurship, or even your job, make sure that the involvement, the outcome of the involvement is a need for the local environment as well as for the neighboring countries. Okay, now I'm coming to a very specific area of engineering where this high risk in the world is an advantage for another type of people. So now for the next 3-4 minutes, I'm addressing a certain stream of engineering, the graduates of that stream. So any other can join into that, but it is very important for that people. Those people are who are on artificial intelligence and especially development of algorithms. Okay. Now, these intelligent algorithms came very first in a certain field where such algorithms are extremely important, that is meteorology. Now, when we forecast meteorological events, we need to, I'm sure that you know heard about this butterfly effect. Meteorological outcomes are dependent on multi factors. Sometimes whether there will be a rain in 2 weeks' time in Kuala Lumpur, and at what level is the rain intensity will be, is to be calculated, computed by taking, say, 1.5 million input parameters, maybe more. That's why the butterfly effect says that even the wing flapping of a butterfly can affect the weather changes tomorrow or day after. This is some sort of a hypothetical statement. Okay, now they understood that in order to make a prediction in meteorology, they need to consider so many dynamic parameters, and the change of one parameter is going to affect the other. So imagine that, forget about 1.5 million parameters, just take 10 parameters. You have 10 parameters where each parameter has a dependency on the other. So how many combinations of events that can happen with these 10 parameters in the next day, next 2 days, and so on? So that the meteorological prediction models were based on these fuzzy nature of nature, and then by today they have developed very accurate, intelligent algorithms in this field. And similarly, you will find that in many socio-economic scenarios, prediction of uncertainty, prediction of risk is a very big issue at the moment. Just like what I said about the hydrogen fuel vehicles and the battery operated vehicles. How do you determine what is the risk of investing on hydrogen fuel cell vehicles? What is the risk of investing on battery operated vehicles? How do I know that? Imagine that the Malaysian government is asking you, Singaporean government is asking you, or even say the Indian government is asking you, what is the risk of India or Malaysia investing on hydrogen infrastructure in the future, taking a policy decision? Okay, now it comes to the prediction of these risks and the direction of the technology through intelligent algorithms. So now I'm coming to a situation where the risk in the world is becoming the gain of somebody. So a risk becomes no risk for someone. Those are the people who are working on these intelligent algorithms. Now, if you think about developing a company, an entrepreneurship, or you are selecting a job on developing algorithms, smart algorithms, which can tell in whatever the field. Now, say, for an example, I want to invest money on growing cinnamon. You know cinnamon. That's one of the uh, most precious agricultural products in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is very popular in the whole world for the best cinnamon. Now, consider that India or Bangladesh thinks that, okay, we can also grow cinnamon because our climatic conditions in some parts of our country is very similar to that in Sri Lanka. Okay, now uh, an entrepreneur in Bangladesh, for an example, think that I'm going to invest 100 million US dollars to grow cinnamon in this part of Bangladesh. Okay, now I have to consider the soil, climatic conditions, and various things. And those things are uh, not risk involved analysis. They are based on real facts. So that I decide that, okay, the every condition for growing cinnamon is perfect in that part of Bangladesh. That does not involve any risk. But then the risk analysis to say, if I invest 100 million US dollars on this cinnamon plantation, what is the risk of I'm getting no income compared to, or very small income compared to my investment? Or what are the chances of I'm getting a very high profit? Now, this risk calculation, if your company can do up to, say, 90% accuracy, I'm sure that you can become one of the leading entrepreneurs in the country, in the region, or in the world. So, I'm giving you an example of how somebody's risk is going to be somebody's gain. Okay, so every risk has a gain for the others. So that if you are in the field of algorithm development, think about that area. There are more than 100,000 applications, maybe about million applications that you have in developing risk prediction algorithms for the future, for governments, entrepreneurs, companies, and so on. So that is the second advice that I'm giving you. Take somebody's risk into your gain. Okay, now I'm going to my third point. Give me just 10 seconds. Okay. Now I'm coming into the level of the graduate engineers who are not going to be entrepreneurs, okay, not going to be businessmen, not going to be government policymakers. They're just looking for a job. Now we are in quite a problematic era. The whole world is engulfed with the pandemic. That's nothing new to be stated. Now, how do you survive and think about your future career on in such scenario? Okay, one advice that I can give you is be very careful in selecting your career based on the needs of this pandemic situation. That's a very high risk. What are the needs of this pandemic situation? One, development of online platforms. That's wonderful. At the moment, uh, from every sector, there is a very large uh, demand for this online platform. So if you're joining a company who develop and maintain these online platforms, that's okay. But don't forget that this need will go down once the pandemic is over. So that uh, I'm sure that we have a new norm in the world. So these online platforms will survive for a long time. That's no question about that, because many people have understood that they have a lot of advantages. But at the same time, the human beings are very much inclined towards having human contacts. So therefore, the need for such online events will go down with time. So therefore, be little careful in selecting a job in such a field. That's a high risk. You have the opportunities at the moment, many opportunities, but those opportunities will diminish, and also you will lose your jobs when the pandemic is over. I'll give you another example: the home delivery system. Now, with the lockdown, many new companies started on home delivery. I know that in South Africa, for an example, several uh, investors put their money on either starting new companies for home delivery or upgrading the home delivery companies which were operating before the pandemic started. They spent a lot of money because, especially during the uh, period of uh, total lockdown, there was a huge demand for these home deliveries where we have to wait for 2 3 weeks to get the goods into our home from any home delivery system in South Africa. But now what happened? After the lockdowns were over, people started rushing into the shops. Again, the investors thought that people once get used to this home delivery system will love to have that because it's very convenient. However, those investors have forgotten or overlooked one very important aspect of human nature. That is the willingness or love of the human beings to have a touch, look of the materials that they are going to buy. So if you look at a lady who's visiting a clothes shop, you will find that, with all due respect to the ladies who are listening today, uh, ladies would love to go through the shops, looking at the dresses, whether they buy or not. They would love to touch 100 frocks before they select the frock that they are going to buy. Perhaps they are buying the frock which they touch first time, the first frock that they have touched in their shopping session. But before they buy it, before they come back to that shop and buy it, they would love to check 100 more dresses. It's not only with ladies, it is the same with everybody. It all depends on what you really love. Now, for an example, I really love uh, buying knives, swords, and so on. Due to some reason, I don't know why. I love swords. I love knives, daggers, and so on. Maybe a criminal in my previous births. So I before I buy one, I would love to look at the whole shop with swords, touching them, trying to imitate mime fighting with somebody. So this is the nature of human beings. So if you forgotten that, if you overlook that simple factor, then you are in trouble. So I think this is my third point that I am telling you. When you are either selecting a job, this is again applicable to the entrepreneurs as well, but especially if you are selecting a job, a new job, especially, uh, which is in line with a newly emerged trend, then keep in mind that the, the need of that industry is in line with the human nature. So this is when you look at the risk, you can keep in mind that if something is not in line with the human nature, if something is a forced practice of the community due to the current environment, the concurrent conditions and environment, then it is very risky to select a job or starting an entrepreneurship based on that forced conditions. Once the conditions are over, human beings will go back to the nature that they love. So this is the next point that I would like to remind you, or I would like to give you regarding the risk and opportunities. Okay, and then we are going to another case. Again, I'm coming to this pandemic situation. You know that uh, looking at the pandemic situation, you will find that human beings, this is also related to the human nature. Human beings are losing many things that they love to practice. Now you see, people are restricted from traveling. The people are restricted from making adventures. People are restricted from getting in human contacts with the others. So uh, the human beings who are being restricted in movement will very easily get into a situation that they would love to have what they want, what they practiced before this condition. So now there lies a big opportunity, although it is a big risk at this moment. Now, for an example, you consider the wildlife adventures or wildlife sightseeing industry. If you come to South Africa, you will find that this is one of the prime areas of income to the country. It is the same in many countries, especially countries in the tropical rainforest rich region. So at this very moment, it looks like a very high risk in starting your business or starting a career in the wildlife industry, especially wildlife sightseeing or wildlife adventure industry. However, you will find that this pandemic is not going to last forever. As soon as this vaccination is enough for the whole world, it will be over. Now, calculating the time at which the vaccination is enough for the whole world and the problem is alleviated is another opportunity for you to develop an algorithm that will be a very good research paper if you want to publish, or even good for your business. And then you will find that as soon as these restrictions are over, there should be a heavy inrush for the wildlife, sightseeing, and adventure industry. So, if you are looking for a career in this area, it may be a really good thing at the moment. However, again, don't be uh, too confident about that area as a long term investment, because again, there will be an inrush for this business for 2 3 years, and then it will become standardized, it will become saturated. So these are the important parameters that you have to consider uh, when you are starting uh, a, a career or a business which is supposed to be a high risk at present, but a very good uh, opportunity in another 2 or 3 years. Now you see that there are two things I'm talking about. There are, in a pandemic situation like today, there are carriers, there are investment opportunities, businesses where the risk is very low at present. However, the risk is extremely high of failure, the risk of failure once the pandemic is over. At the same time, there are investments or employment opportunities at present which are high risk at present and maybe low risk in another 2 or 3 years. And in such low risk cases, also, there are two types. Once the pandemic is over, there may be a short term, no risk opportunity boosts. And also, there may be long term opportunity boosts. And you have to select them properly. So, another one I can add into this is the aviation industry. So, if there are aerospace engineering or aeronautical engineering, I may say more than aerospace engineering, aeronautical engineering, aircraft carrier engineers, technical staff, engineers, and so on, you're having a very bad patch at the moment. It's a very high risk of studying aeronautical engineering, as many people tell you at this very moment. However, don't forget that once this pandemic is over, the whole world, I'm repeating, the whole world will find that there is a huge demand, not just a demand, a huge demand for aircraft mechanics, aircraft engineers, and aircraft servicemen. What is the reason? Now, at the moment, there are large number of fleets of many carriers grounded. Now, when you keep these aircrafts grounded for a long period, sometimes, according to the aviation codes, you have to do certain maintenance procedures that should be followed throughout the period that it is grounded. In some carriers, the income is so low at the moment that they can't maintain this maintenance, so that it's abandoned. In some cases, it is maintained, properly maintained, but you never know what will happen after 1 year of non operational existence of these aircrafts. So that as these lockdown periods, this pandemic period is over, suddenly the entire aviation industry will understand that there is a very high demand for flying from the global public. However, the aircrafts are not ready to cater that need because the aviation companies have to abide by the rules and regulations set forth by the International Aviation Association. So that suddenly there will be a very big boost of uh, jobs in this field. So now you see that if you look at the next the period, the 3-year period starting from 2022, we'll have a very heavy demand for these aeronautical engineers and aeronautic related various mechanical and electrical sector people. So that if you are a company owner or if you are an aeronautical engineering expert, then you can get ready yourself for this inrush of opportunities. And any entrepreneur, any investor can think about having a company of hiring expert servicemen to cater this need. I'm assuring you that this is a low risk, high opportunity. Definitely there will be the need. However, again, you have to be little careful in understanding that this inrush of opportunities, I'm not telling about the general opportunities, this inrush of opportunities will dry out within about 3 to 4 years, maybe 3 years. So that you have to develop your business scope or your career scope according to that situation, that scenario. So this is where, again, the calculation of the risk. Calculated risk is not you're calculating what is the level of risk of your investment or you're getting your job. The calculated risk is where you estimate up to what period, what duration the opportunity will sustain, and what is the risk of diminishing opportunities after that period of time. Okay, so this is another important point that you have to consider. Give me another 10 seconds for a sip of water. Okay, now we are coming into another uh, I may say a dominant factor when it comes to risk and opportunities. Before going into that, I would like to say, please forgive me for this mode of presenting. I'm talking about sitting here and giving my presentation because usually I love to walk on the stage, even go to the audience, talk to several participants individually, and that mode of operation is not possible. And now, Savitri, you want to give any reminder to me?
Yes, Prof. We have approximately 3 minutes left.
Oh, great, great. So that's wonderful. Because I think I have told most of the important factors, and then finally I'm going into wrapping up this whole thing with this dominant factor. I'm telling you, this is for all career building uh, graduates. especially in the field of engineering. Those who are looking for employment or those who are looking for innovation. When you're starting your new career or new investment, the most important points, there are few important points you have to consider. This is what I have discussed during this almost 1 hour period. So now I'm going to list them out. The first one, make sure that your intended investment or career is a need for the immediate society. When I say immediate society, your own country, and also to the region, and then look at the international scenario. Second point, make sure that the risk of getting failure is at what level and for what period. So keep in mind that when you're deciding on, especially on a job or investment, everything has a success rate or failure rate during a certain period. Sometimes this period may be very long, sometimes this period may be very short. And then the next point is that make sure when you take the risk is not life-threatening. When I say life-threatening, if you feel that there is a risk of you're totally losing your career or job, your career, your job, or your investment, then whatever the gains or profits, don't invest or don't involve yourself in it. It is too risky. This is not calculated risk. Okay? And then finally, what I'm telling you is the practicality. Said all, if you look at yourself, if I look at myself, what I can tell you is that people can give you 100 advices, but after you graduate, what type of job you are going to grab? Anything that comes in your way. Am I correct? So this is the reality among all graduates and even the investors. If they see anything coming on their way, they try to grab it, especially for the graduates. No problem. This is the last thing I want to say. No problem at all. Grab it because you need something to start with. So the best advice I can give all graduates is that whatever the opportunity that comes towards you after your graduation, grab it. But don't forget that it is not the end. You grab it and then make sure that you're on somewhere on your feet, and then think about what I said. Selecting your more dominant, prominent, and long sustaining career or investment, you think about it while you have grabbed and going through, the first opportunity comes towards you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. That is an excellent session. Thanks a lot for the wonderful talk. So we have got some questions out here, starting from the first one from Akila. What is or are dominant parameters of identifying difference of risk or opportunity in the perspective of an individual looking for an impactful change in the career?
That's really a good question. Now, when you are thinking about the risk, the basic point you should not forget is that about your ability. Okay? With ability comes the willingness, and with willingness comes your love for that career. So let me start. Let me stop at the ability, which involves with willingness and love for the career. Keep in mind that if your ability is very less in the career that you are going to select, or even the investment that you are going to put, that's a very high risk. Okay, so the when somebody offers you an opportunity, just think to yourself, just talk to yourself and ask, can I do this? Am I able? Am I capable of doing this? So if your heart says no, whatever the opportunity or whatever the income gains that you're getting, you can go for that, but don't forget that there is a very high risk of your being failed. Okay, so the first point is ability. Then the second, third points, I think I told you the need of that to the society and the sustainability of that need in a certain period of time, or which may be short or long. You have to understand that. And then comes to the opportunities. So always you will find that people say that higher the risk, greater the opportunities. In my life, I have seen that this is not the case. Sometimes people forget that, or people overlook that there are low risk opportunities which people uh, think that they are not that important, or that they are not fascinating. I'll tell you one good example. I know few of my students who selected a career of piloting when they were when they had very high opportunities to be aeronautical mechanics. Okay, and the simple reason is becoming a pilot is something prestige in the eyes of many people, many engineers. But the word mechanic is not. Sometimes they call it engineer, aeronautical engineer, but you have to do mechanical work, which is not attractive. So you are going for the high risk uh, option, whereas there is a low risk option is offered to you. But several of these people who selected to be pilots have lost their jobs during the last 7-8 years. Whereas the aeronautical mechanics or aeronautical engineers who are ground based operational crew having a very good lifestyle and uh, the way of living, I may say. So therefore, don't think that always high opportunities are, that is the normal trend, but not always. High opportunities are involved with high risk. Hope that
Thank you. Thanks, Prof. Yeah, well said. And I mean, we need to know when to take the risk and when not to take the risk, and when to grab the opportunity and not to grab the opportunity. We have another question from Renu. Which industries would bloom according to you after the pandemic?
Bloom.
Yes.
Okay, great. When I look at the scenario, the present scenario, I can very easily give an answer to that. As you can see, this artificial intelligence field is going to have a huge boom in the post-pandemic scenario. The reason is that many people understood that future predictions, then smart automation, smart operation, and the fault minimized systems are the need for the future. This pandemic told people that this is a huge need. And therefore, I'm 100% sure that the field of artificial intelligence, whatever its field, because artificial intelligence is just a tool, it can be applied in any field. Now, let me give you one small example. If you are working in customs, say that you are a customs officer or airport security, you have to identify the smugglers. And at present, most of these aviation security people, they identify people from the facial expressions by their intuitive knowledge, by their experience. Developed, these things are happening at the moment. There are several algorithms, but develop a highly accurate algorithm and a sensing system where just by scanning the facial expressions of a human being, and you can say that, oh, this is a smuggler, this is a murderer, oh, this is a normal person. That's $1 million outcome. Okay, so this is the area that is going to boom in the next 5-6 years. If you want, I can list out the others as well. Savitya, do I have time, or shall we stop at the number one?
We have 5 minutes left. I think can go to the next question, Prof.
Okay.
All right. So we have one. We'll take one more question from Prashant. How can budding startups can manage its top risks?
Can you repeat, Savitya?
How can startups can manage its top risks?
Okay, so now can you remember I told you there are identification of risks, the ways of identification of risks for any industry, not startups, for any investment, any industry. So that when you're having a startup, the risk management should be done in such a way that, as I told you, usual trend is that when you are taking a very high risk, your profits are also very high, but the chances of failure is also very high because your risk is high. My advice is don't go into that. Okay, look at the basic risks that you are going through. So when you are making a startup, first thing you have to be concerned is the ability, not the demand. Many people are giving the priority to the demand at that current scenario. But think about your ability. When I say your ability, I'm not talking about I say, for an example, I'm the one who's putting money into the business. I'm not talking about your ability. Now, say, for an example, you are going to start a food canning business. I'm not talking that you should have the ability to do food scanning. That's not necessary. But you should know the ability of finding people who are well experienced and capable in this field, and also their devotion and loyalty. So unless you have that, you think that, okay, there's a huge demand for canned food at present, and you think that you can find somebody and start that business, that's a high risk. In my opinion, you should not take that risk, especially if it is a startup. It's quite okay if it is a well established organization which is going to start another part of their business or another new investment. That's okay because they have the ability to fail. Ability of failure is another important thing that I did not cover in this presentation, because everybody has a certain ability of failure. That means you have the ability to absorb the failure. But in most cases of startup businesses, by especially the fresh graduates, this ability of absorbing the failure is very low. So you have to keep that in mind. So my advice is that if you are having a startup, think about your ability, then think about the demand, then think about the sustenance period, the period of sustainability of the demand, and also the ways of uh, grabbing the opportunities. So this is something that we have to talk at another time. Ways of grabbing the opportunity means when you are going ahead with the startup business, you should have an idea of what are the possibilities of expansion of your startup while looking at the low risk opportunities and high risk opportunities. This is another complicated story that I have to tell with examples and so on. We'll have another time to discuss that.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the talk, and thanks a lot for the audience for your active participation. And it was indeed a great session with real-world examples of how to analyze risk and opportunities and to do the right decision on right time. Thank you so much again. And with that, we are moving on to our last element of the webinar, which is the closing remarks and board thanks. We have a very special guest with us, Professor Samir. Professor Samir received the BTech degree in Electronics and Communication Engineering from University of Kerala in 1994, MTech in Telecommunication System Engineering, and PhD in Wireless Communications from 2003 and 2009 respectively from IIT Kharagpur, India. After various tenures in industries, he joined as a lecturer in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at NIT Calicut, Kerala, India in 1998, where he is presently working as a professor. He has published 30 journal papers, including reputed IEEE transactions, 51 conference papers, and holds 2 US patents. Samir SM is a senior member of the IEEE and a regular reviewer of many reputed international conferences, and was the general co-chair of TenCon 2019, the flagship conference of IEEE Region 10. He is the immediate past chair of IEEE Kerala section and currently serving as the secretary of IEEE Region 10. His research interests include synchronization and channel estimation techniques for next generation wireless systems, interface management in deep learning applications for wireless communications. Prof. Samir, it's a great honor to have you with us. The stage is all yours. Professor, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much, Savitya, for the kind introduction. It has been, I mean, when you in the beginning, when you asked Professor Chandima to test the slides, basically, so he told that, I mean, I don't have any slides to present. I was just wondering how he is going to engage the audience for the next 1.5 hours by just talking, basically, on a topic probably which is, I mean, quite difficult to engage. I mean, without, say, pictures or graphics and other kind of things. So, but what we have witnessed over the last 1 hour 1.5 hours is like a kind of complete entertaining session on different thoughts on the different perspectives of these risks and opportunities. From an industry point of view, he started with a classic example, which we are familiar with now, on the EVs and the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. The dilemma of companies and even policymakers, and how a non-engineering solution has suddenly, changed the landscape of the problem. And then he discussed about the risk perhaps taken by a country as such, with the example of the Israel's technologies on desalination, on precision farming and all, which is basically, it was kind of a risk, and in fact, at the same time, it was a demand for the survival. So they have invested a lot, and they are now reaping the benefits by even selling the technologies to even their enemies. So these are from kind of bigger policy level or bigger kind of risk, whereas he has later on came to the graduate engineers, like how the graduate engineer can look at the risk and opportunity perspectives, basically for deciding the careers, like looking at the current opportunities or looking at the trade-off between the low risk, probably high return and high risk, low return kind of elements, basically. And very interestingly, he has also pointed out that one should not take too much of risk to get a decent reward. Decent kind of returns also. And the importance of algorithms, especially, the audience here would be interested to explore more on technological aspects of developing solutions and all. So that also he has covered, and the importance of artificial intelligence in the coming era, and related technologies also touched upon. And it was an absolute pleasure listening to you, Professor Chandima Gomes. And on behalf of IEEE Region 10, we would like to present you a small virtual memento, because we are all constrained with mobility. So kindly accept our appreciations and this memento. And we really look forward to listening to you later also in some possible opportunities.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And this program would not have been possible with the, enthusiasm and active planning and involvement of our moderator of the today's session, and the chair of Young Professionals Committee of IEEE Region 10, Dr. Savitya Shivakumar. You are an absolute delight to the Region 10 EXCOM, and you're coming out with so many innovative programs, and this is just one of them. And I thank you for your, for personally inviting me to this program and managing this moderating this whole session. Thank you, Savitya. And hello.
Yes, Prof, we can hear you.
Savitya, am I audible?
Yes, Prof, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Professor, can you hear us, Professor Amir?
Hello.
We can hear you. Professor Samir?
Yeah, am I audible? Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and this series of 10 talks is a combined effort of a few committees of IEEE Region 10. I thank Ms. Emiano, the Region 10 Committee Chair for Women in Engineering, Dr. Akila, Mr. Ashwant, Mr. Hisham, Dr. Khanida, Ms. Renu, Mr. Sai, and the other, committees of Region 10, like Industry Relations Committee, Mr. Sanjay Kar Chaudhary, Chair, IEEE Region 10 Professional Activities Committee, Mr. Prakash Lohana, IEEE Region 10 Student Activities Committee, Dr. Jennifer, and Ms. Varunika, and the EMIANO IEEE Region Women in Engineering Committee. So this has been going good, and we really look forward to many interesting topics in this 10 Talk series. And I request all the participants to give your feedback on this program by scanning this QR code. And we really look forward to your feedback on these sessions so that we can improve upon. And on behalf of Region 10, I thank all the attendees for your active interest in attending the 10 Talk series, as well as your questions during this program. And please stay tuned with us to know more about our next program. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Samir, for your kind appreciation and words. Your presence is really meaningful for us. And we would like to move on with a quick group photo with our panelists. I would like to request all on the cameras to pose for a quick group photo.
On a count of three. Yes. Yeah. On a count of three, request all the panelists to turn on the video for a group photo. On a count of three. 1, 2, 3. Taken a cut. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shan. Akira, can you please share the slides? Thanks again. Thanks to all our attendees and Prof. Chandima for your great session today. Please do connect with us through our LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube to know up-to-date events of IEEE Region 10. Next slide. We would like to hear your feedback as well. So please let us know how to improve so that we can serve you better in our upcoming events. So on behalf of the organizing committee, thanks a lot and see you all soon. Thank you and have a great day there. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for plans. Thank you.